be so easy to fall in love with you. It would be so easy, so easy. Yeah, it would be so easy to fall in love with you.
I've known Fay since I was born. And Fay used to say that to me, and she'd say, "Oh, I've known you since you were a baby." And I said, "Well, of course, because you're older, and I'm 2 years younger." So I've known Fay all my life, and she, of course, has had a major impact on everything that I've done. And I would like to read a letter that Fay wrote to me. A letter to Jean. I look at this photograph of us at sunset in the Mojave Desert, sky in pinks and purples, against sand and stone, the world a very quiet place, and how we've remained hopeful, didn't let go of our dreams and our artwork despite the life events around us, that we gave each other the love and support, space when we needed it. I know if you weren't there many times in the past few years, I would have flown out of my mind. Luckily, I had and have you to turn to. You're going to do fine in Japan. Never mind the jitters. It took me a good part of the trip in Taiwan and Hong Kong to feel comfortable on my own. But every time I look back, I'm glad I did it, because I know I can go anywhere, anytime on my own again. I feel this is a turning point, even more than that time in the desert. You're initiating the next turn for both of us, and when I meet you in Mexico, we'll make that total turnaround. That when the both of us return to New York in the fall, we're going to begin that deep commitment to our artwork. I'll miss you. I think a large part of me was scared of your leaving. Because I do depend on your being here. Staying in this apartment on my own is forcing me to get that sense of my own rhythm without all the voices, crescendos, circuses. There's been some tension between us. It's transitional, I think, because we're both on the verge of our new selves. You on your way to the pottery villages of Japan and Mexico, and me in this apartment writing, painting. When we're in our new skins comfortably, we'll be chattering again. I will always see us looking into deserts or swimming in oceans in different parts of the world, trekking Earth. At times together or separately. Always spiritually tied. When you're 91 and throwing pots like Maria Martinez, and I'm 93 painting desert skulls like Georgia O'Keeffe in the dry land of New Mexico, we can look back to this. Have a good time and write. Love, Fay. March 27, 1979.
Fay has given her life to neighborhoods, to the poor, to the afflicted and sick, to those who wear misery like a coat. She's given her life to Chinese Americans, to the immigrant community, and she has given her life to Chinatown. I mean, I could talk all night about Basement Workshop, and I love the recent events that honor her work there. I also honor the apocryphal story of how Basement closed, where Fay was told she couldn't do a gallery show of unknown Asian artists. She had to show quality, which meant showing the work of established artists. And Fay said, well, keep your money then. And so the Grants Council sat on their money, and the artists kept painting. And basement morphed into the Asian American Writers Workshop and the Sulu series and Kundaman and the many other amazing Asian cultural organizations around town and the country. And what I mean to say is that Fay gave her life to poetry in a way that very few poets can say.
I started this idea of having a celebration of Fay's, life was when, I visited her on August when she was in the hospital. And she told me, and that day she was so on cue. She had me get her all the supplies to brush her teeth. She wanted to take a picture of her. She told me she wanted to do FaceTime with Don, the director of Project Reach, her sister, her daughter, and Nicholas, and she wanted me to, tell the nurse she wanted another pair of socks. I mean, I was at her hospital on a Sunday for 2.5 hours, and this woman she had more energy than I had. And, but I realized, when I was talking to her, that there was moments where people surrounding her didn't even know what she did and who she was. And when I left the hospital that day, I had 2 agendas. Fay wanted a party, and and I texted some of her friends that she told me to text to tell them to come up and have a party beforehand, and then also to bring all the dignity to this woman that she so well deserved. That in that hospital room, these people didn't even realize the body of her work.
I met Fay at through our poetry, and I think in those days everyone would always remember her electrifying performance of her Chinatown poem, and she would just she would scream out her words with anger and pain, and that was an anger and pain that a lot of us were not in touch with, that was within us. We were the generation that followed 3 wars with Asian countries, the Korean War, Vietnam, World War II. And so we were also the generation, our parents were here during the last phases of Jim Crow, which affected Asian Americans as well. So we all had this experience as young people, as children, growing up in an atmosphere that denied us a place in this society. We were largely invisible in mainstream culture, and so when her Chinatown poem was read, it was demanding respect. It was demanding a recognition and validity of our lives and our history.
Meeting Fay was life-changing for me. I grew up in Queens, just like Fay grew up in Queens, child of immigrants, and she was born many years before, like 30 years before, but when I heard her stories and I found out, she's a poet, she's an artist, it really opened up my eyes about what kind of pathways lay ahead for myself. And I think, meeting Fay and hearing just the way she talked about, being an Asian American woman in New York City, in Chinatown, in Queens, it really touched me in a way that nothing else had ever. So I owe Fay a lot, and I miss her so much. And I still remember that big, beautiful smile and that big laugh. She was always laughing about everything, whether it was something good, something bad. She always found a way to, find laughter in it, and that was, amazing to me.
I remember in 1975, there was a Chinatown resident named Peter Yu who was beaten and strip searched by local police officers for no apparent reason. So Chinatown's response was that the entire community shut down, and tens of thousands of people came out and marched on City Hall and marched on the police precinct. And just tens of thousands of people voicing their anger and their displeasure. At that time, I and many others were asked to form a cadre so that we could marshal the demonstration to make sure everything was peaceful, that everything went without a hitch. I mean, trying to manage 15,000 people, angry people, so that we found that to be a challenge. So when the crowd made its way past City Hall and back to Chinatown toward the 5th Precinct, we marshals gathered in front of the 5th Precinct so the people would not storm the station house. So there we were, and the angry crowd just surging past Elizabeth Street, past the police precinct, and there I was, giving them the power salute to the people and just urging them to be calm. And I looked to my right, and there's Fay, that big smile on her face, giving them a power to the people salute, and just smiling and urging everybody to be peaceful.
When I met Fay was in the early 70s, and it was at Basement Workshop, which was located at 200 Lafayette Street. And it's been amazing several decades. I've known her since, I guess, has to be 40-something years. I have such fond memories of Fay because in truth, I would not be the person I am. I'm the person I am because she was the person she was. She was an activist, she was spiritual, she was a community leader, a social worker, and I've never seen her stop. I've never, in spite of all the family problems with her brother getting cancer and her getting cancer for 2 decades, she's always been resilient.
We bonded on certain issues, or like how to like be there for our daughters and how to be a mother. And one of the things that I really have learned through the years, like even though we need to grow, but we're never alone and we have a community. So I joke all the time with all my friends. I'm like, I'm gonna call my village and we're gonna talk about my latest issue that I'm confronting when I'm raising my daughter. Yeah. And through the years, Fay sat and she listened, and then one of the things I know about her is like, it's like when I go crazy, I'm like, Fay, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to navigate these waters. And she's like, Mei, I did it with Chiang. Through the years, I would listen to her say her daughter's name so beautifully. And I think that love she had for her daughter, through all her struggles with her health and through everything that she gave to the community, she never stopped. And that's what, at the hospital, I really thought if these people realized how much she gave, then you know what? It's time for us to give back to Fay, because she was like one of these women where you sat across the table and you never knew how much she had accomplished and changed in this world. And it's like, because she held herself with so much humbleness. And sometimes they say that humbleness comes from understanding your purpose.
Fay was Fay was a scream of pain that many of our communities that are marginalized face all the time. And she was letting that pain out so that we could all be empowered. And Fay was, she was the person who was always there. Project Reach has always been seen as a place where the throwaways come. If they can't find people to help them, they come to Project Reach, and we're here for them. But there was a point at which I've been at Project Reach for over 35 years now, or 32 years maybe, and there was a point at which I used to tell Fay, so-and-so has been getting services from us a long time, and now sometimes we have to let go. But Fay was the one who took on all the people that could have been considered the Project Reach throwaways. So if anybody comes to Project Reach, they could always know that even after Project Reach and myself and whoever else worked with them as much as we could, if they still needed help, Fay was there to pick them up. And Fay, I love you, I miss you.
Fay came to understand that I was also a very passionate social activist outside of the job. I was involved with the October 22nd Coalition to Stop Police Brutality, and we had a particular project called the Stolen Lives Project, which documents the stories and lives of the people who've been killed by law enforcement. She got involved with that, and she began to draw pictures of people, of loved ones who were killed by the police and other forms of law enforcement, and presenting them to the family and loved ones of those lost individuals. She got involved with the October 22nd Coalition and our organizing, and subsequently, when I began to organize another new organization called the Stop Mass Incarceration Network, she also got involved with that too, in terms of continuing her work and doing these portraits and also doing a lot of beautiful banners.
I would like to read this poem that Fay wrote for Xi'an, Dakota, Sidel, Carly, Miwa, and Munji. It's called Magic. When you were young, you grounded me with the way you saw life, fresh and brilliantly alive, always with a why not on the tips of your tongues, which made me stop and think, yes, why not? You shared fantastical and wild stories into kingdoms beyond, especially where there were princesses wearing beautiful gowns and pots filled with golden coins and precious jewels. You said, Auntie, I want Spider-Man sneakers. You lightened my spirit with your hugs and gifts of drawings and pottery projects, your poetry, the make-believe plays, and always the dancing and off-key singing. You believed you had the power to do anything, be anyone like the mutant Ninja Turtles or Xena, warrior princess, and especially on Halloween with your magical wands and silver wings of aluminum foil and always the glitter. Don't forget the glitter that helped you bring home 10 pounds of candy apiece with change to spare. You showed me practicality and shrewdness in business when you ran yard sales in front of the building, hawking old toys and jewelry and books, offered to make pet portraits for a fee, or wash the neighbors' pets, promising customers you would study hard and finish school and go to college. You taught me to look at the world closely, to pay attention to little things like buttercups and their golden powder upon the chin, dune peas flowers, how to hunt and skin a partridge, read animal tracks, row across the wind-blown lake surface, to look for eagles' nests atop towering birch trees, or listen for the call of loons, wonder at spiders and their webs, ants in their colonies, watch worms crawl after summer rain, use blades of grass for whistling, gaze at butterflies' patterns and colors, to big things like the heavens and the planets Venus or Mars, the big and little dippers there beyond the universe, and to wonder if infinity was a circle. You kept me on my toes, finding sources of energy I did not know I possessed, because you depended on me to get you where you needed to be, but could not go alone. School, karate, gymnastics, ice skating, swimming, bicycling, art classes, libraries, museums, movies, plays and performances, hiking country, beach, and mountains in all seasons, and then when you were older, to watch as you moved boldly into the world. You showed me kindness and patience beyond your years. Maybe a cup of tea, but no coffee, which is bad for you. Or, oh, don't worry, we can clean up this apartment. Or, rest now, we can make dinner. How about macaroni and cheese? You forced my mind, oh tired mind, to think bigger thoughts, to stay hungry and curious, to dream. You forced me to grow and to move into the future fearlessly, or with less fear. and you made my life richer because of your magic. I wanted to say to Xian that Mom was very proud of you, and you've become an amazing young woman, and you're beautiful inside and outside, and I'm very proud of you too. And we will always remember Mom, and we will move forward together with positive energy and faith. And I love you very much, Jeannie.
There's an old poet in China that mentioned one time, they said, life can be as light as a feather and can be as heavy as a mountain. Fay, I would say that she was really a feather that flew by us lightly, gently, her presence, but then her legacy, her work, when you look back, is really like a heavy footprint in terms of the movement that when it started, when nobody's around that much. But out of that very difficult track, she left a very heavy footprint. Hopefully, it will become a legacy for a future generation, which she spent a lot of years in her later years working with young people, again, to educate them, to nurture them, to get them to see from their perspective how things can change and how things can be better if you focus on the visionary way.
I want to thank everyone who's participating in this celebration for Fay. I want to thank Mei Fung, who first came to me with this idea in late September. I had to ask Fay and Xian what they thought, and Fay was very excited and happy to know that everyone wanted to have a party for her, because as we know, Fay always liked the fundraiser parties at Project Reach with music and poetry and art and a lot of people gathering. So she was very, very excited. I want to thank also Don Gao, the director of Project Reach, Dan Giella, the director of One Art Space Gallery, and also Javier Soriano, who's doing this taping, and all the numerous musicians, poets, readers, and also we're having healers.
And the land is gone, and the moon is the only light we'll see. No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Stand by me.